Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite Creator. And I continue to pray each and every day that each and every one of you will accept the knowledge and the healing and the wisdom of the universe. Now, with that said, it's been a week since I've done a show, and I wish to say hello, everybody. Greetings to all of you folk out there. A little bit of update before I get on to the topic. Last week at this time, my daughter came up from Pensacola, and we met her down in Cairo last week at the Native American powwow down there at the Tama Indian Reservation down there. And it rained, and it tried to storm. And I got to say that them folks are fearless. All of the above. And guess who joined the ranks? We did. Hello, Milk Cow. How are you? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that way. There seems to be a Millie Cow. Anyway, hi there. But we went, Breaking Dawn and I had a really good visit with my daughter. It was just really good to have time again to sit down and chat and share with her and break bread and so forth. We had some Indian tacos, yum yum yum. They're not bad either. I'm telling you. A lot of times when I eat something like that out, I get an upset stomach. Not this time. Like millipede, millicow. I got you. I was kind of wondered about that. Thank you for clearing that, for clarifying that for me. So, my main topic for by the way, the Saturday night we got some rain and not too bad a storm. We stayed under an ancient, probably 150 to 200-year-old oak tree down there on the property, and oh my goodness, yeah, it rained, but we didn't get wet. A little sprinkly here and there. It came off and on, but them folk will dance in a hurricane. I'm serious. I mean, and drum. There was a lady drum, an all-woman drum there at the powwow last weekend, which I was very surprised, but also very proud. And the ladies did a very good job, and I wish I could remember their name. But anyway, but the powwow, I didn't officially dance in a circle, but I danced almost the entire time I was there, as far as going with the rhythm and the beat and being able. A little bit of back issues here this last week or so. Old age seems to want to kick my ass every once in a while, but I refuse to, stay down. Regardless of the pain and whatever, we still went and spent time, shared with other people, visited with other folks. Y'all want to see my newest? This is my latest in my collection of rocks. This is a combination of smoky quartz and, oh golly, every time I look at it, the lavender stuff. Amethyst, golly, every time I look at it, I want to think of something else. But look how pretty that is. Now, I got to say that not all the facets, not all the sides are natural. This thing's been buffed up a little bit, but it is in basically the sides have only just been straightened up a little bit and buffed up. It's still pretty much in its original condition. And it was only $28. And I'll tell you what, this thing called to me from across the tent. It was like, come to me, come, get me. And it was a wonderful lady there who was about my age. And let me see if I can get a little bit better. So it's amethyst on this corner, but there's smoky quartz on this side. It's a beautiful stone, and I didn't want to put it down. I kept walking around with it. So anyway, I'm having a conversation with the woman who was the vendor there at the powwow, and bought some more sage and some other things there. I always try to support the powwows. and the folks there, because they work hard setting up, tearing down, putting up in the rain, traveling from here to there, and I've done all that, and I'll tell you what, it's a chore. Anyway, but I'm talking with the lady. She's about my age. She's at least in her 60s, maybe a little older, but I'm going to be polite. But still getting around good. And she goes, and she had uh, several hundred rocks out on her table set out at least. And she goes, I hand picked them all. And I said, "Oh, really?" She goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, this one spoke to me from across, from outside the tent." And I said, "So I understand what you means." She goes, "Some people just pick up rocks." And she said, "I used to do that, but I'll go into a place or want to buy some um, rocks or crystals or whatever." And she goes, "If they don't feel right for me, I don't bring them with me." And I was like, Really?" So she picked this crystal out in a way for me because it didn't feel, all the other crystals didn't feel right, but this one did. And so, and it called to me. So, but anyway, crystal power and the people that you meet and the kind folk and everything, which is sort of got me. This is a segue into the theme for tonight. And greetings and blessings to all of you, continued blessings. I know Mississippi and Louisiana and parts of Arkansas are getting hammered right now with some flooding, 10 inches of rain in places. We could use some of that rain over here, by the way, but we've gotten some rain and it's not all that bad, but we could really use that. That front could move towards us a little bit. Hi, Crystal. How are you? Blessings to you. But anyway, so this is one of my newest um, purchases. Oh, it was $28. I was like, what? I'm not a rich man, but I've seen these things go for $60, $75, $28. I was like, here. I gave her a tip, and I bought some other things from her because I was like, yum, yum. I have this wonderful crystal with both smoky quartz in it and amethyst. Oh, how lucky I am. And she picked it out for me. She just didn't know it. The synchronicity of things down the line. Now, what does this have to do with the title of this particular video? The superiority or perceived superiority of airhead, dumbfounded, city slicker types who think they understand how the planet works, how we, the people, work, how nature works, how everything should be run, how they should be in control and we should be dominion and over everything. And one of the things that is just important for us to understand, it is so not like that in the real world. And so now I grew up in Tampa, so I grew up in some neighborhoods that were not overcrowded, but there were a lot of kids and people and stuff and traffic and things, not like it is now. But I left there in '73, so I'd in hanging out with the folks at the powwow and so forth, burning sage, feeling the drum, feeling the earth move under your feet from all the dancing and all the people. The good, nobody's fighting. Well, actually, there was an argument, but one guy thought he knew what he was like a 17-year-old kid that thought that he was a master electrician, and too many people plugging in extension cords and trying to cook stuff on a limited um, electric line. But anyway, those lines are not supposed to be everybody hook up a frying pan, electric frying pan too. But that happens when it's raining and there's no people there. But anyway, but it was only one argument that I heard, and everybody got along. It was great. Now, when I see people interacting like that, I hear about the people in the big cities. Now, having grown up in Tampa, this is not new to me because that was one of the reasons why I left Tampa. And this is nothing, has nothing, I don't mean anything by folks who live in the city. Okay. There are those who live in the city, though, who fit this, the superiority down here in the South. We used to call them carpetbaggers. And somebody said, "Well, wait a minute, weren't they selling stuff?" No, carpetbaggers were the worst after the Civil War. And any true Southerner would shoot a carpetbagger. I mean, carpetbaggers were tarred and feathered and rode on to town on a rail. You know, anyway, carpetbaggers, shysters. So there are a lot of Northerners down here, for example. I'm a damn Yankee. I was born in Ohio, but I live down here in South Georgia. So, there are those who say, but Hawkeye, Dave, you weren't born here. That's true. But out of the 67 years of my life, I've been here like 45, almost 50 of those years. Since I was like 19, I've been here. And I used to travel up here every year. So it's not like this is something new to me. And I grew up in Tampa. So technically, yeah, I was born in Ohio, but I'm a Southerner. So anyway, those folks, when we were in Tampa, every winter the snowbirds would come down. What's the difference between a snowbird and a damn Yankee? Snowbirds fly home in the spring. Damn Yankees stay. I mean, that's just, if you're not a Southerner and they've never heard that, that's the difference between a damn Yankee and a snowbird. And snowbirds are piling south right now. Tampa's filling up, St. Pete areas, and there are places around here where there are a lot of folks, because we're not quite as far south here in Georgia. You still have a little bit of winter, but we ain't got the problem with the snow. I mean, it's nice to get snow every 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 years. It's been a while since it snowed here. But, we have the cold, but we don't have the blizzard conditions. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, the superiority of these people, though, who live in the cities, and the belligerent. I'm using this as just it's my own little, the belligerent billionaire, because they all, they walk through the park and think that, oh my God, I was out in nature today, because they wouldn't live in an old swamp hovel like mine, you know. Um, Wait a minute now. They wouldn't step foot down the driveway. They'd go, I'm sorry, but I wouldn't go down to your place, Hawkeye. You would just I'll video call you if I need to speak with you, or I'll call you on your landline because the reception is so poor in your area. But there are folks though that don't live in the country but think they know what the country needs. They think they understand nature because they watch nature on the Discovery Channel. They watch Nova. They watch, something about the South Seas. They watch blah, blah, blah. So they think they know exactly what's going on. They know the pulse of Mother Earth. They know the pulse of the universe because they've watched all these science programs. And I must admit, some of them are very dramatic and some of them used to be convincing. Now I understand differently. These shows are leaving out a lot of science, a lot of science, a lot of science. Things they don't quite understand, but they want to talk about and try to give you their hypothesis on. And that's sort of what I mean about those of us who study the nature of things. Native Americans have a feel for the earth that, I'm sorry to say, most white people just don't understand. And you try to, to get them to understand. Oh, and they come up with all these things. Well, there's the Native Americans were savages and they're dancing to a drum and they're doing this and they're doing that. They're saying prayers to Mother Earth if you really understand what they're doing. And so the whole weekend, even in the rain, there were folks dancing. Guess who? For Mother Earth. And so how can you say, well, wait, but these savage people, but they're dancing for you and me. I went there to add my prayers to it, and I kind of drug y'all's prayers along with it because I kind of went down my list, of all you folks that I see in the chat room. Hi, Crystal. Sean D. Shauna. Okay. A Cosmic Convergence. Hi there. Greetings, everybody, on a Friday night here in South Georgia, anyway. Crystal. Yeah, and Millie Cow, like millipede. I got it now. even though I don't have my glasses on. But anyway, hi there. Greetings and blessings to all you. But anyway, so my point about this is that there are those people who, rarely ever really get into nature. And so what they would rather, hi, Brian, how are you? Did you get my late email? I felt so bad. I was like, and I missed anyway, never mind. Um, but to stay on topic, there are those folks who live in concrete houses. They've got a few house plants, you know, and uh, they go to walk in the parks and they go out and they drive through the countryside in their cars with the windows rolled up with the air conditioner on. And most of the people won't even turn off the AC and roll down the window like us country folk like to do. Instead of taking a country road, they're all going to try to be on the interstate. Oh, look, Marge, out the window there's some cows in a field. Isn't this great? We're out driving through the country. And then they go back to their concrete jungles. And I think to myself, but these are the people who wish to make, like comments about the rest of the planet. And it's like, but wait a minute, they've never really experienced what's mostly not far from most cities. Now, there are those weekend warriors, and I got to say, I used to be a weekend warrior when I lived in Tampa. Couldn't wait to get out to the swamps and on the river and so forth. Pyramid 7, hi, how are you? The shitty slickers. Yeah, I was trying to be nice in the title, but that's sort of what I was actually thinking. Because these people, they bring their bottles to they take their pictures. There's McDonald's. I've been in the National Forest in North Georgia many years ago, many times. There are places up there that I've seen that a lot of other people haven't seen. Like I saw fairy lights up there one summer. It freaked me out, but it was really cool and very interesting. But anyway, then I started seeing stuff down here. So it's like, they're all over the place, especially when you pay attention. So folks in real life, who watch these nature programs and they go camping. Not to say I'm not getting down on campsites now, but I usually pick a place when I go to the National Forest. I go to where the road ends, and then I kind of go a little further up an old forest trail, logging trail, and find some place, that's really really secluded. And I have panned for gold up there around Dahlonega and the Yahula Creek and so forth. Have lots of different things, but people who don't experience those kinds of things, and I think back to on my life, and I say, well, I can't quite do some of those things like I used to, but I ain't dead yet. But the thing is that I can sit here and I can tell you these true stories that have happened to me, and being in the mountains and so forth. But you'd be way. Hello, Michelle. Wait, yeah, Michelle, how are you? Cosmic hugs, everybody. Hey, Chloe, did you somebody? Oh, hey, Chloe, how are you? You bopped in there and I didn't notice. So happy Friday, everybody, and almost Saturday. But this idea, though, that people will take their city slicker ideas and put it across the planet. And, they won't turn off their cell phone. And if they don't get a signal, oh my God, my GPS doesn't work. But have you ever tried what's called a map? I mean, seriously? Can you follow a map? Oh, no, my GPS is going to. What about a map and a compass? Well, what's that? It's like in case your GPS don't work, something cosmic goes on, you can find your own damn way. If you've got a map and a compass, if you've got a map, you don't really need a compass if you understand what the map means. You'll know what direction you're going because of what's the topographical type things that are on the map if you pay attention. So anyway, but city slickers, oh my God, they've got to have their four-wheelers. They got to have their big ass trucks with the fifth wheel, and they're going to go rough it. Now there's nothing wrong with that per se, but I'm used to taking a tarp, put a rope between two trees, sling a tarp over it, and make a lean-to shelter half, and just sleep on the ground. in the national forest. Now, I was talking with Breaking Dawn about this about a week ago, and I said, I never really stopped to think about it, but there were bears, there's panthers. I mean, some of the places where I've been, it takes several hours to get there. And, if you were injured and had to get out, it would take you that several hours to get out, and then you're only going to be at the crossroads. That doesn't mean you're near a hospital or any help. But to the point, though, it's not that I think that everybody should just, take, well, actually, maybe I do. I take that back. I think everybody should take a sleeping bag out and roll it out into the stars at least once in their lifetime. You know what I'm saying? And just take it out under the stars and lay on Mother Earth and look up at the stars. Ooh, a lot of lagging going on right there. You use Sean says, Shauna, I'm sorry. I use landmarks and a compass. I get around everywhere. Exactly. You know, and if, for example, if I knew I was going into an area, you can go online and print out your own maps, and if you've got a big enough printer, you can print up a large size map from the USGS, or you can buy them like I've done. Oh man, I've got probably 50 maps of different areas. I mean, I've got maps of Montana. I've got maps of Idaho. I've got maps of Washington State, Oregon. Every state I went in, I bought maps of the national forest areas where we might stay, and some of the state areas, like in California. Northern California is beautiful along the coast. Oh my God, I just gotta say, and the redwoods, man. But here's the thing: there are people who may have lived in California who may have never been Northern California to see the redwoods, for example. Now it's hard for us Easterners to make it across the United States unless we fly out there, rent a car or something, to be able to visit those giant redwoods out there and to see the volcanoes and Mount Shasta. I drove around a full day and part of the night on Mount Rainier, and that was just spectacular. Some of the most mind-boggling sights I've ever seen were on the road that goes up and around the top towards the top of Mount Rainier and then back down the other side. Unbelievable sights if you're ever up that area. But to the people with the superiority complex, which is really strange because these people who've never experienced some of these things seem to have an idea of how everything works. They not a clue what may live there as far as frogs or salamanders or something in the water, or how the river will flow, if there's a lot of sediment in a river, what the height of a river may be. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. And they go, oh look, there's a canyon, ain't it pretty, Marge? Take a picture, come on, let's go. So, and that's their experience with Mother Nature and of the world. And so, how can you understand how the rest of the planet works if you're stuck in an apartment in some of these big neighborhoods that I've seen? I used to live in a neighborhood in Tampa. We lived 9 blocks from Busch Gardens, where I grew up in Tampa. I used to work at Busch Gardens. Me and my brother both, actually. And that was a sweet job, getting free beer after you got off of work. That was sweet. They left the hospitality house open for 30 minutes after they closed the park back then. So all the employees would haul ass to get to the hospitality house. Screw taking off your uniform and all your stuff. Nah, we went in for the free beer. And you could stack as many as 6 up. They had like a limit. But for a half hour, little, I don't know, maybe 10-ounce cups, as many as you could toss down and as many as you could like salvage, because they stopped the beer after 30 minutes, but you could still stay in the hospitality house as employees. They threw you out at I think it closed back then at 5. So we had until 6 to get drunk, which was great. And having lived so close to Busch Gardens, I had 9 blocks to stagger home. That was convenient. You know what I mean? Okay, what has this got to do with the superiority complex? Well, there are folks who live in certain neighborhoods, and I've met people. You know, I met a guy over the weekend from Brooklyn. And I went into this Brooklyn accent. He was like, "Man, you really do that a really good job of that." He goes, "A little bit on the Italian side," and I said, "I played a mafioso in a play," which was true. And I learned from a guy who was a 20 some odd 25-year veteran cop in the Brooklyn and down in the Bronx. So he taught me how to speak that way with the right inflection. And so, but he was kind of freaking out. We had a good time this over the week over this last weekend down at the powwow. Interesting people that you meet, sharing food, sharing stories, sharing. Hey, you need a cigarette here? Here, you need something to drink? We got something here for you. I mean, you know, people we've never met, but people that we know in our heart because we're all there for the same reason. And the city slicker type folk, I just have they just don't care. They don't know who their next door neighbor is. They don't socialize. Now, we might not know who our next door neighbor is because they're half a mile away, but that's not the same as people who live on top of each other in concrete boxes and so forth. And so, but they're the ones who want to make up the rules for the rest of us. They're not in touch with the rest of us. That's why I also put in, us country folk will survive. We're still going to be here. The cities could crumble and fall apart, but a true Southerner, a true, country person, they're going to know how to deal with stuff. And we've already been to school because we live here. A friend of mine, who uh, we've been friends for a long time, lived in one of the nearby towns. I don't want to give it away or whatever, but put her on the spot if she watches this video, maybe. I love you, dear, if you know who I'm talking about. But she lived in town and then moved out to the country. And at first she was like, "Oh my, I get lost all the time, my GPS," and now she's like taking chances. It's like I know how to go, and I took a shortcut over here, and I realized that this road cut over to that road, and I realized it was a little shorter. So she lived in a city and knew her way around town. But even living here within the county, she had not lived in the country, even though where she lived was not necessarily in a big neighborhood in the city. It was on the edges of town. But to the point though, a lot of traffic, trains going by, and all, and that ain't so out here. If there may be a big implement go by, like they've been picking cotton down here and doing and turning. It's peanut season down here as well. Fresh peanuts. Ooh, fresh boiled peanuts soon. I can't wait. They've been in the field and combined up, and now are being sent to the dryers. And we'll be having some fresh peanuts soon. Anyway, but to folks who have never been experienced, like, what the hell's boiled peanuts? Well, we got them through a store and a thing. Nah, if you go find somebody, and I gotta say, there's some white people that do that, but find an old black man sitting on the side of the road with a pot, and he's got a little burner up underneath there, and he's just got a sign, cardboard, that he scribbled on it that says boiled peanuts, whatever. And he'll sit there, and you stop by, and he'll dip them out for you, and it'll be the cheapest, but it'll be the best because he just got them peanuts from a local farmer. You can't get any fresher than that, than picking them out of the field, which is not necessarily um, advisable with some of the things they put in the soil these days. It's best to kind of dry them out a little bit. But anyway, but to the point though, folks in the city, ooh, I had boiled peanuts in a can. Well, I had such and such in a jar, or I had such and such. But wait a minute, have you ever experienced it? Have you ever went to the country? Now, and what does this have to do with it? Well, when you understand nature more, you understand yourself better. And if you live in a concrete jungle, well, that's all that you see, feel, touch, and you have these little visions of, ooh, what reality is, when the rest of the planet is so much more vast, so much more expansive. And if they stay in the city, they're stuck in a city mentality. So these folks also formulate these opinions, and then they want to go to Congress and tell us all how we're supposed to feel. When those of us down here, there's all this economic crisis. People down here in the South seem to be doing fair to middling. Now they kill about 1 million chickens a month here. That's not a lie. 1 million chickens a month here. And there's the cotton and all the other, we're an agricultural, we're an agricultural county down here. Hello, Gerald. How are you? Crystal? Pain sucks. Yeah, I agree. Been going through some of that. But the idea though that these people want to make decisions on the environment when they've never really been in the environment, they want to make decisions about folks who live in the country, have no idea what our point of view may be because we look at things differently because we live in the country. I mean, even my friend who lived in town, she still lived in a rural community. We still live in a rural area. But, people in Atlanta or Macon or Augusta or Columbus, them folks, they don't think like the rest of us. They really don't. And they have this warped perception of what they think we feel. When, wait a minute, if somebody comes down here on my 18 acres, they got to drive down my driveway. They have to come to my house. If you drive all the way down here and you want to pick a fight with me, you better start running or I'm going to have a bow and arrow. I got a slingshot with rocks and berries. I got a 22 pump up rifle that will hurt. And, I'm not allowed to have any firearms, but I have lots of other weapons. You don't want to mess with me if you're down here to do me harm. We're going to fight because this is my spot. Now, when you live in a neighborhood, and I used to, where your neighbor was right behind you, and there's these tiny little spaces where you can damn near touch the walls of both houses, as you walk between them. You have to live in so your mindset is different. You understand what I mean? What does private property mean? Well, I don't know. I got my neighbor over there and I got to listen to his loud ass stereo all night long and blah, 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 blah. It's a whole different thing when you're out here. A friend of mine was staying with me and they said, I can't believe it how quiet it is out here. And I go, yeah, it's a noisy night. And they were like, what? And I go, yeah, I can hear the machines running over in Meg's where they have the big cotton gins and where they've got peanut dryers and so forth. And, and at late at night, you can hear those machines running and they're 6-7 miles away, but it's through the hills and so forth. You can hear that machine run and you can hear traffic down on the bridge, which is about a half a mile away. You can hear things up on the highway that's about up on 202, which is like more of a major highway than just a county road. And you can hear trucks going up and down there. I mean, the expansiveness of what you can hear, perceive, you can hear owls down in the woods. You can hear neighbors up on the hill closing their car door. Or when they pull up and they all get out and, okay, get the milk out of the trunk, and so the idea of space and people and what goes on is just a totally different mindset. But the people who live in the cities, them city slickers, them carpetbaggers for us Southerners down here, want to con us into believing their point of view. In some instances, there may be a twinge of correctness about what they're talking about. I mean, they're talking about the environment. Well, have you been down on the rivers like I have? Have you been down in the swamps like I have? Oh, but the rivers and the this and the, have you been down one of them? I don't mean you have to go camp and you may have to put on mosquito gear, but it depends on the season. But, have you went down a river to see what it's like? Even in your own neighborhood, I'm talking, 30 miles from you, from where you are. Have you tried to get close to nature in any way? Oh well, I don't know. Well, we went out for a couple hours. Yeah, okay. How did that make you feel? Well, we were refreshed, and then we drove back to the city and right back into the same concrete stuff. So, did how much did that residual nature did they bring with them? How much of the natural order of things and the universal code and all of that good stuff, and they go back into buildings that are wired with concrete and steel and things, and all they hear is the noise around them. I talked about last week when I was down in Tampa. There were several places I got out of the truck and literally could feel the vibration of the traffic through the ground. And Florida sits on a giant aquifer, you know, and so it's hollow basically. And so the more water they take out of the aquifer, the more vibrations they put into the earth. And all of these things are affecting us. So big city, lots of traffic, the buildings are literally vibrating from all of these energies. And people have grown accustomed to it. Well, I don't feel it. What? I felt like a drunken sailor going, wait a minute. Oh, what do you do with the drunken sailor? What do you do with the drunken sailor? What do you do in the drunken sailor? Early in the morning. Yeah, an old Rounders song. Cheers, Bob. I noticed there's some glitching going on, but it seems like there's been a lot of internet issues here these last few days. About a day or so ago, maybe 36 hours now, looking at the Schumann resonance, we got slammed, folks. Big time spike. Whoa. And we went from like doo 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 to chink. Somebody turned up the volume big time. Interesting. But so all of these other energies and so forth. Now, okay, I'm a hermit. I understand. I've lived down here in the country most of my life now. Okay, I get it. I have a different point of view. And I understand people who've lived in apartments because I used to live there. But there are people who lived in apartments who have never tried living in the country like I have. Now, that doesn't mean that they should commit the rest of their lives to living in the country, although that probably wouldn't hurt them. The idea, though, that their point of view is different from mine and from people who live down here in the South, and not just the South. I mean, I was in Minnesota, and I met some fine people, in South Dakota, eh, they're almost like Canadians, eh, you know, and I've been to Canada and to Toronto, to Toronto. And I missed the Niagara Falls, but at least I made it. I've been in Toronto, traveled from Detroit across, went into Windsor, several Ford engine plants there in Windsor, Canada. And one of my jobs was to go into the engine plants and have discussions with our product with the Ford engineers. Anyway, and then we'd drive from Windsor all the way across Canada over to Toronto, driven it in the middle of the winter, driven it in the middle of the summer. Some really nice areas, but I wouldn't move there. Anyway, although most of the people I met there were very nice. I couldn't believe how many Russians are living in Canada, by the way. Not that I care. The old Russian women that I met, oh, they were, I swear, they were like typical Russians, like, you think me wrong. What's, oh, I can't, anyway, it was just humorous to listen. But very strong-willed and strong ladies, like, wow. So what's this got to do with the superiority? Because they live the way they do, because they live in these constructs, confabs, and so forth, and because they are convinced, because society has told them so, that is the right thing for them to do. Now, for example, there are a lot of folks out in California who are having a bitch of a problem right now. And do you think that any of them are like really thinking, maybe I should rethink this? How many forest fires in the rest of the United States? I mean, down here in the South, we have fires, but we have fire prevention. We have something called the Georgia Forestry Department, who helps to, farmers and to plant trees and, and help with controlled burning. We don't have the issue than them folks in California do. When we didn't have rain for 60 days. So it's not like we don't have dry conditions. We don't have forest fires. Well, it's not mountainous, so forth, a lot of other things. But to the point, though, if I lived in an area that was continuously wanting to catch fire, continuously with the earth was shaking, I would immediately reconsider my options as to where I thought this might be the best place for me to reside. And so, but there are people, God bless them. If they're still there, Pamela, if you ever watch this, God bless you. I know there are folks out there who live in along the Oregon coast. Some good friends of mine recently, I got a phone call last week, and they have moved from the Oregon coast to Minnesota. So good. They made it to at least the central United States. So um, now they have to contend with snow in Minnesota. But, hey, we all got to put up with something, right? But the idea, though, that the mentality of the people, where you raised, what you're raised around, what your environment is, affects who you are. So the more people that think that the city life and the thingy and all the fashion stuff and all that kind of thing is like they're really going to surprised when, it comes time to cross over, because they're going to go, what the hell? I don't need any clothes. We're all flying around up here in our astral suits. Oh, holy crap. I think I'll change my costume, you know, um, won't have to shave all that hair, won't have to worry about conditioners. I mean, anyway, but to the other side, but the other realms. But the thing is, though, that people consider now, if I lived in a city with chlorine water, I'd have to use all kinds of shampoos and conditioners too. I mean, I spent 2 days with friends and washed my hair once with the Clorox bleachy kind of thing. And I was like, oh my God, get me home back to my hand dug well in the water that's there, because it's so much more natural. And, I look at, um, now to the point, my sister has slightly different genes than I do. But, I looked at friends of mine, and at my age at 67, my hair is still not really gray. And I take zinc. I use, I was told years ago to make sure that you take a decent amount of zinc in your diet, and it will help your hair from turning gray. Now, my beard turned gray a long time ago. I'm much like my great, 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 great grandfather, Robert E. Lee. And, this is sort of an homage to him in my old age. But anyway, the superiority complex, why do they think they need to make the rules for us? Well, because their mindset is different. Now, there are people out here in the country who own a lot of property, who's got 1,000 acres, and they think their sheep don't stink, and, they name the country roads after them. And these people are like, and there's a gentleman that has been passed away here many moons ago. They named a road after him after they paved it. And when I first moved down here, he introduced me to one of his favorite goats. That's right. Here, look at this one here. You want to take her around the side of the barn, son? And I was like, for what? Well, she's my favorite there. And I was like, sorry, I come from the city. We don't have goats and people. You mean you want me to go around the corner of the barn? They named a frickin' road after this guy. And I'm like, but nobody knew that he was a goat pedophile. So weird things happen all over the place. Now, thank goodness some of them old folk are like, have went ahead and moved on. And there are the sons and the grandsons who have taken over some of this property. Some of them are doing a lousy job with farming, but other folk are actually doing um, very remarkable things. I've noticed that since the blueberry market became so good, there are certain areas here in South Georgia that are rather poor for growing cotton and things like that. So people have decided, and with great success, planted blueberries. So now we have blueberry farms all over down here, especially in the sandy areas and over towards Waycross and Homerville in South Georgia. When I was over there at the powwow in the spring, it was dark when we went over, but coming home, I could look out the windows and go, "Oh my God, look at all these blueberry farms over here." I mean, hundreds and hundreds of acres of blueberry farms just in one farm. And you go a half a mile, so forth, then there's another one. And some of these things were over 1,000 acres easy, because the bar you could see across the field. But anyway, but people who don't experience these kinds of things have a different point of view. And I don't want to sling rocks and mud at these folks, but I would wish before they're pick a subject, pick some of these politicians, pick what they're discussing, and us folk down here out in the real world, if you will, and maybe in the extreme suburbs that they call a rural America, where if their cities went dead, where would they run? To rural America. And they would expect us old folk to, like, "Oh, help me please, my freezer's out, and I don't know how to build a fire and make coffee on my own." Yeah, okay. Yeah. um do you know how to gut a deer? What? Well, what are you going to eat while you're out here? Well, I don't know. Do you think maybe you could hunt a turkey? What? You mean they don't come wrapped in a plastic bag from the grocery store? No. I mean, there are people who everything is so prepackaged that if they caught a live fish and had to scale it, clean it, gut it, rip out the guts, cut the head off, and then fry it, couldn't do it. Well, you want me to cut it open? Well, you caught it. Now it's dead. So fillet it. What do you think Chick-fil-A is? They fillet a bunch of chickens. You know, I don't. I couldn't eat one of my chickens. I still have one chicken left. There's a lot of strange activity here in the house. I don't know if you all have noticed, but there's like stuff going by and shit. Anyway. But with that said, though, I think folks need to, you know, chill out a little bit from the cities. They really do need to go out and touch Mother Nature. They need to reconnect to the planet and to the rest of us folk who kind of just sort of do this on a natural. I mean, there's so many things that I know because I just live in the country that other people would have to take years to learn. But because I live down here, if something goes wrong, I go, well, there's a thing and a that. Nah, we'll get by with this. I got a rope and a bucket. There's water in the well. So the lights went out and I can't get water out. Well, I got 1,000 gallons stored. But other people, what are they going to do? It's a different mentality. When your lights go out a lot in the country, then you learn how to like never have an electric stove in the country, or you're just brain dead. So people who live in the city, but gasoline, blah blah blah. Yeah, okay, you could have natural gas, but to the point, everything's electric, and everybody uses the microwave. So they buy these fresh vegetables, put them in a microwave, nuke the fuck out of them, and then say, "Ooh, look at this delightful meal that I'm eating that is so healthy for me." Do you know how many hands that thing's taken? Do you know how many processes those plants, herbs, the broccoli, the whatever you think is so freaking natural to you? Do you realize? Oh, and there's a God love them for it too. It's on Netflix. A little bit of promotion, not paid for, but called Rotten, and it's about the food industry. and how things transpire. And I've talked about this sometimes before. And when you live in the country, you know what fresh is. But people who live in the city, you don't get it fresh. I don't care what you think you're getting. Oh, did somebody just drive it from the country? Now, I know there are places that do this. Don't get me wrong. But most people who think they're getting something organic or something that has freshly grown, it's been in a freezer or a cooler. It's had to travel because there are down here in South Georgia, we there are lots of places that grow a lot of different types of vegetables. A lot of greenhouses have gone in down here. Kind of strange, but so they've found out that they can grow all year round with greenhouses. Once, instead of putting plumbing in or doing all that, if they control it and put greenhouses in, then they can actually get more out of per acre. And once you go through the initial cost and the payback is quick, the farmers go, well, wait a minute, I don't have all these sprays. Now I'm in a greenhouse, and if something gets in a greenhouse, I can control it right away. Whereas a whole field is susceptible, and I could take out a part, replace it with others, and oh my God, these folks are doing great. So the farmers, not all farmers are out with big tractors. Some of these farmers have decided to convert their property into more intensive type farming. Whoa, now that's cool. But do you think that the folks in the cities really understand what's going on? I know how many hands it takes to grow this and do this and the fertilizer and the thing and the thus and the blah, the fans and the all, been there, done that, worked on some stuff around here. I used to build hog pens and chicken pens, and for the chicken farmers way back in the day. Big business down here. Now there's not so many hogs, but boy, there's a crap load of chickens. But to the point though, they're all kind of little businesses that have sprung up because of the chicken business. Do the folks who think they're getting a farm raised chicken? I got a farm raised chicken, but in order to process it, it's got to go through this and that and this and that before it ever reaches your hungry ass. And I'm not trying to be cruel, but well, I have this fresh chicken here. No, did you go out in the yard and go hick whack? Kill the old red rooster when she comes? No, sorry. So you're the folks that live in concrete bunkers, or I consider, any apartment that's made out of concrete. Of course, now I have concrete here in my house, but it's not about that. But the apartments where people are living side by side and on top of one another, it's concrete bunker to me. But anyway, but with that said, though, there's so many other things that go on, and if you realize these things, how things are made, you go, oh, holy crap! I didn't know that's how they made that. What you get a better perception of what goes into making something, or into a bottling process, or into what pure water and all this other kind of crap. And it's like, so what kind of bill of goods have you been sold? But the people in the cities accept it. It's the truth. It's the gospel. And they don't know how to live any other way. They're stuck in the system. So they come out here and somebody said, wow, I tasted your water, Hawkeye. It actually has flavor to it, and it doesn't smell like bleach. That's what you get in the country. So, but all of it has to do with our overall perception of who we are. So if you live in a crowded community and you got neighbors and the traffic and the thing, you don't have a quiet time. There's always something going on. Now, true, out here in the country, it's 7-8 miles away. Yeah, there's stuff always going on in a way, but not like folks that live in the cities. So their brains never really get to a rest spot, in my humble opinion. So their perception of what reality is different from a lot of us, because we get a good night's sleep down here. You know, we don't have all this junk now I got to say, in driving around the county, I don't know where in the hell all of these cell towers came from with the 5G hanging on them. They're all over the place down here. I mean, all over the place. Hundreds of them. I mean, every couple of miles there's another one. And I'm like, this is out in the country. I mean, way out in the country, out on the between two counties on the county line, and it's 20 miles either direction to any real civilization. There's small communities, but 10, 12, 15 houses maybe. No store or anything, just a group of houses. Um, but there's cell phone towers all over the place. Can't get away from them. But now we don't have the electric grid, and for people who live in apartments that are over 2 stories tall, there's concrete involved. There's concrete involved in a lot of them because it's so stable and hold up so much weight and so forth. And in that concrete is steel rebar, reinforcing rod. So you have these, and they're sunk in the ground into the footers. So all this is connected into the ground. All right. So when you wrap wire and things around, you can set up an electromagnetic field, especially if there's a charge. So buildings that have all this rebar in them, and rebar has to be wrapped, and there's wire, there's all kinds of stuff. If you look into concrete construction where they pour columns, you'll see all these things sticking up, and there's rings going down. So there's a lot of metal. Okay, it's not just concrete. It's also the aggregate and stuff that they put in it, depending where the concrete is. And the aggregate is stone, rock, sand, things like that. But to the point, though, in all of the big high rise and all the buildings that I've been in, anything above the third floor, it's like, it's kind of weavy. I mean, I literally, and I'm not, I say I'm not afraid of heights. I've been up in the mountains and looked off the edge of a cliff. It don't seem weavy. I go up 3 or 4 floors in an apartment building or in a bank or something like that, and I look down and I go, what the hell? It's not the same. And I used to do steel work. I used to do the high wire. I was the guy that connected all the purlins together before the roof went on. And I was the guy that put the roof on too. But anyway, but to the point though, the things are weaving, wobbling. So my point to that is that people's perceptions have been altered who live in the cities now, and they, for whatever reason, vibrations, absolutely. Hey, Mary Wins. Um, I think the minerals in the stones conduct energy that the spirits can draw from. I feel the ground vibrating sometimes. Shauna D, I agree with you. Now it shakes here sometimes too, but usually it's trucks going by or farm equipment on the road, and but it sets up tremors in the ground. And so people say, well, Hawkeye, what do you mean you went to Florida and you could feel the ground tremble? Well, there's thousands of vehicles, if not hundreds of thousands of vehicles traveling this and way and that way, this way, that way, this way. And and the ground is trembling. If I can feel a large truck go up on the paved road at the top of my driveway down here, which is probably the length of a football field, I can feel the rumbling through the house. You can feel the tremble in the ground. That's normal. But people who have hundreds and thousands of vehicles traveling by, up and down and back and forth, and all the movement. I mean, you get enough people walking in the same direction, or just walking haphazardly. Their feet are going to actually produce, the clicking sound of high heels on sidewalk. Boots on this, the tapping of canes. All of it combined, especially when there are a lot of folks in a small area, it's got to have an effect. It must have an effect because everything they do sets up a vibration. It's been proven. Somebody taps a cane on the floor and microphone, it picks it up. There'll be a certain line, a certain distinction of where that tapping sound is. Mary Wynn says, I swear there's a train track or a highway under the house. Mary, what part of the country are you in? Because I was up in the North Georgia mountains. Now there are some sure enough underground facilities up there, and north of Dahlonega. You go up this road, and it dead stops, and it says no further. There's an armed guard, U.S. military. You can go turn right or turn left, but you ain't going straight. And a lot of the area through there is restricted. It's fenced off. It's government property up there in the national forest, and they conduct all kinds of secret stuff. But there are folks up there in the mountains that I've talked to over the years, and it's like, they can hear machinery below them, and they're on a mountain. And you got to wonder, are they drilling? I don't necessarily know if it's aliens. I think the aliens would be a little bit more quiet about it. Hey, Delaney, how are you? But the idea, though, that if it is the government tunneling under shit, and they already do. There's an underground base in Thomasville. It's a 37,000 square foot, more than that, underground facility there in at the state mental hospital. Been there since before World War II, or around that time they put it in. So it's like, well, hang on there. So there's all these things they've already done. There's still stuff left over from World War II that they just ain't people forgot about. They got old and died, and well, and they whether you want to believe in the deep underground military base, the dumbs. Um, I've seen entrances of two of them, so it's like, now I can't say how deep they are, but they are underground. That's without a doubt. And out at MacDill Air Force Base, there were some places out there when we were Boy Scouts that we went out there and camped one time out at MacDill, yeah, during the Vietnam era, when all the strike force was coming in. And there's a lot of stuff stuck out there. Now, when I visited Ohio and some of my folks up around Dayton a few years back, Wright Air Force bases there, and they put things there at Wright Air Force Base back in World War II. And it goes back to, of course, Orville and Wilbur Wright, the Dayton boys that had patents. I think some of their patents are still active on certain parts of gears and tail wheels and the mechanics thereof. They were a couple of smart brothers, they were. And but there are things out there buried in Ohio that just saying, and they've admitted they've got underground stuff out there, and on top of the ground too. But they've got hangars and things out there. But anyway, and if you're in the Dayton, Ohio area region, they have the Aeronautical Space Museum there. I think they have one of the original Wright brothers flyers there. And all kinds of aircraft. It's really, really, really interesting, especially if you're into aircraft. But the idea, though, boy, I sure am off on a tangent tonight, ain't I? But anyway, going back though to the people who are just associated with where they're at. I live in an apartment building. I live in a blah blah blah. I go up and down in an elevator. I got a certain person in mind I'm thinking about. And it's like, well, we go to the park. Yeah, but you don't understand nature. Well, we live in a certain section of Manhattan, or not Manhattan, but New York, and Hell's Kitchen, I think, or something, but their idea of what it's like to be down here is totally different. Some New Yorkers can't stand it down here because it's too quiet for them. You know what I mean, Vinny? And so it's like, but for those of us out here, we couldn't stand a night in New York City. It would drive. I've been to Chicago, and at 4 a.m, it's noisy, down on LaSalle Street. And I went to a blues bar, an old timey blues bar with the older woman, that's sitting smoking a cigarette, and she's got a drink. And she's doing a little bit of scat, like ooh pa pa chupa pa, and it was great. Piano player, 4 a.m, yeah, buddy. Anyway, lots of neat underground places in some of the cities that never sleep. But if you know, when I was a kid, we used to go down in the drain, the storm sewers and stuff. And man, we in our neighborhood, we knew where every shortcut was. If we wanted to hide from somebody, we could go through this sewer down, go down to this um, junction, hang a right, and go down three junctions and come out at a sinkhole area. So if you were running from the bad guys or something, and they were too big, and we could scamper through them tunnels really good. And some of them were long. I mean, you get in there and be like, holy crap! But in the heat of the summertime, it was really nice inside those tunnels. Down there in Tampa, nice and cool as little kids. But we learned how to be tunnel rats. But you can also hear all kinds of stuff. I mean, we could hear people talking. They were waiting for the bus down this tunnel, and they'd be talking about something, and they'd be, yeah, Aunt Sally, she had a problem with her hernia the other day, and blah blah blah. And we're in a tunnel, 2 blocks away, can hear it like they're like a megaphone. But anyway, my point about all this and the vibrations is that it's affecting their point of view, it's affecting their thinking, it's affecting their reality. All of it is the vibrations in the metal, in the rocks. And I agree with you, whoever wrote the thing about the rocks, the different aggregates and so forth, whether or not it's granite, how much quartz is in the granite, for example. What is the matrix of the different metals that they use? Where did they get the metal? What's the construction? I mean, and the thing that it's all tied together. And like in a big city, they sink them pylons for those big buildings way down in the ground so they have a good footing. So they're anchoring into Mother Earth and channeling whatever, or dispersing. Who knows what it's doing? They're acting as antenna. But the biggest thing is, if people don't think it matters, that's what bothers me the most. Well, it doesn't really matter. It's just a building. Yeah, but it's vibrating. Well, yeah, that's the elevators, and it's all the people on their computers, and it's all the whirring gizmos in the building that's shaking, setting up a resonance with the building. And we wonder why people have all these issues and illnesses and what? And they wonder why they're having a bad day, or why they I hate to say it, but I think some of these things are literally cancer related, because they put themselves in situations that don't ground them. Now, I've known a lot of old farmers, and I gotta say, these guys were handling poisons and Roundup and all kinds of stuff. And back then, they didn't even fool with gloves. I mean, seriously. And they lived to ripe old ages of at least into their 70s, 80s, and a few of them into their 90s. When I'd have thought that some of them fertilizer things and stuff and all that stuff, oh my God, should have killed them. Nope. Smoke cigarettes, nope. Um, so if you to say, well, it could have been the Roundup, it could have been the chemicals. Well, if that's true, there would have been a lot of dead farmers. I mean, that'd have been dropping like flies. Not to say it doesn't, but to the people who live in cities and so forth with all this concrete, uh, you know, uh, there is an unnatural resonance that is being set up that people, I believe, are unaware of. And through the superiority complex of these people, they think that we're the ones that are batshit crazy. They they think they're right, and all of us rural folk are out of our blinkers. You know what I mean? And that oh boy, there's some weird stuff going through here tonight. I'm just saying. All right. I'm gonna light a cigarette. I know I ain't supposed to smoke on YouTube. I'll light it off camera over here, and I'm gonna put my glasses on and read your comments. It's great hanging out with you guys. I missed you this last week. A lot of effort over the weekend. A lot of moving and things and camping and stuff and this and that. And I had a little bit of a humorous story. Breaking Dawn was one of her second official camping, maybe first time maybe at a powwow. Very new at this, where I'm an old hat kind of thing. And so I made sure she had the brand new air mattress, and I had one that I'd blowed up, and it held air, except it held air without me being on it. Hi, Dominic. How are you, Chloe? I see there, Mary Wins. I'm from. You're from what town? Chicago town? Are you up there? Is that what you mean by Chi Town? But anyway, I've been to Chicago. There are parts of the city I really like. I can understand why if you got a job and you got a this, but like if you had the opportunity though to make a little less money and move to some place that's better off for you, would you do it? You know, I said hands down, get me out of Tampa. I want out of this. But I don't get paid for this, and I don't want to, but uh, I'm smoking this right now, American Spirit, and they're not bad. It says they're natural. I haven't held them under a black light yet. You can tell if the cigarettes have been added to by holding them under a black light. You'll see spots on them. Okay, Bob, let's give you a little bit of cheers to Bob. But anywho, my air mattress, it let down, and we were on a slight hill. So all night long, I kept rolling downhill, and the air mattress was slowly going down with it. So I got up one time and blew up the air mattress, but there towards about about the time of dawn was breaking, I had just given up and said nah. But at that point, I felt like all night long I was clinging to the side of a mountain, falling off. So I had my arm over the air mattress, like, don't roll off of this thing. Enough of an incline to make me feel like I was on the side of a 45-degree incline. But anyway, so I spent the night sleeping on like this. It was fun. It was interesting, but I'm still getting over that. Is why I brought it up. Oh, I'm playing devil advocate. There has been some advantages to living in the city. Millie Cow, to those folks, go for it. Go for it. Go for it. I know folks who thrive in the city, but the thing is their point of view is still different from us rural folk. Not just me, but rural folk. And that's my point. Some people have to have that constant vibration of the city life. To live in a city that never sleeps, isn't that going to drive you crazy after a while? Have you ever stayed up a long time? I used to, being a truck driver and a carny and all, we lots of hours. There were times we'd be up 24 hours without any sleep. A little cat nap, maybe, like while you're driving down the highway, driving a kiddie ride truck, or pulling the merry-go-round. Yeah, that's fun. But anyway, um, but the idea though that those, hey, how are you? Hi from QC Canada. Hello, my friend. How are you? Mary wins. Hi, everyone. I didn't greet y'all. Mary, you always greet folks. Let's see. Let me get back up here. I really do like hanging out with you guys. Why do people smoke entire cigarettes? Doesn't that make it a lot more addictive and more withdrawals worse? There are times when and I gotta say, these are a natural cigarette, and I've been smoking a cheaper brand because I don't want to smoke anymore, but I'm still smoking. But I'm down to about half to 3/4 of a pack of cigarettes a day, and a lot of it is just burns. I don't sit here and chain smoke it. So a lot of times I look over and go, crap, most of that cigarette got burned, and I'll take one or two hits off of it when it gets down to the end. But to the point, though, um, I'll save the ends of my cigarettes and put them in a container. And then when I run out of store boughts, I got some papers and I roll my own. In fact, I rolled a couple of my own earlier this evening. I got my tobacco thing down there. But to the point though, yeah, it's one of the things I still want to give up. Yeah, Chloe, you're absolutely right. Now, let me give you, since I'm smoking a cigarette and we're having the discussion, let me give you a little something from a chemist friend of mine that I was friends with for over 18 years. And we were doing Halloween specials and stuff when I did puppet shows. And underneath the black light, the cigarettes were lighting up, and different cigarettes look different ways. And I was like, what's with that? And he goes, well, let me tell you a story about the cigarette industry. And I said, okay. He goes, why certain cigarettes taste kind of sweet? And I go, yeah. He goes, it's because they add sugar. He said they add sugar water. And he said, what most people don't understand is there are certain chemicals that, when burned with, especially if you really pull hard on it, if you do what's us smokers call hot boxing it, it's almost like smoking crack, because the sugar in the tobacco, when it reaches a certain temperature, you will receive more of the nicotine. It's like freebasing tobacco. Now, I will tell you, because I don't smoke Marlboros. If you can help it, get off of them. I'm telling you. Winston's not so bad. Pall Mall, I've been one of the few that I can actually smoke. But some of these folks use ammonia. They spritz a little bit of ammonia onto the cigarettes, into the tobacco, and you can see it under a black light. Not the ammonia itself, but you can see where it's dried on the paper. And what it does is, when the ammonia mixes with the tobacco and you burn it at a higher temperature, when you hotbox it, you are freebasing the nicotine inside the tobacco. And that's what makes it addictive. Because now, instead of just like, getting a little bit of nicotine with normal tobacco, like I smoke a lot and just roll it myself, and I only smoke about that much of a cigarette because it's too hard to hold, and I end up rolling it over again anyway. I recycle my tobacco because I'm trying to quit smoking, but it's one of my few addictions I still have left. I'm working on, and I'm anyway. But to the point. So the people, if they knew what was going on, I switched brands of cigarettes, and some of my seizure activity went down. And I bought a pack. When we'd have parties, there would be people there, um, smoking and drinking after we put the kids to bed, kind of thing. And so I'd ask them, what kind of cigarette you smoking? What kind, because they were underneath the black light. And so I did a poll. So we'd get 8 or 10 packs of different kinds of cigarettes within an evening's time. So I started noticing that these have this mark. All of the Marlboro products are like this. And some of the, if I smoke a Marlboro, I literally will get lightheaded, and go, well, wait, but that was different. Now what did that do to me? It's the chemicals they put in it, so you freebase the nicotine, so you'll buy their product. What makes it a smooth taste? It's because they use sugar, and the sugar freebases it the same way. Did you know that, FYI? Now you do. So for those of you who smoke, or if you know somebody who does, and you see them hotboxing their cigarette, that's because they are freebasing that nicotine, and they gotta have it. I know some friends of mine, God bless them, they can't go 30 minutes without a cigarette. I mean, they'll stop in traffic. They're going to smoke. They are going to smoke one way or the other. Get off the bus, Gus. Make a new plan, Stan. You know, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. That's what the song was. Anyway, um, Hymn Time is my favorite Doyle album, says Chloe. They are most definitely there, I believe it. Okay. The Millie Cow. I've always enjoyed the act of smoking. It doesn't matter what it is. Cycle out your herbs. Try things like skullcap, uva ursa. I missed one. Marshmallow, lobelia, peppermint, and yeah, the country is the place for me, for sure. Says Mary Wins. And I'm not trying to put down city folk. I'm really not. But there is just a difference in opinion, a difference in philosophy, a difference in our energy. And so when folks from the city want to complain about all these things and they get all hyper, and some of these politicians, I mean, what are they thinking? Where are they getting some of these effed up ideas? You know what I'm saying? This Ocasio person, some of this stuff. I mean, and I got to think, well, wait a minute, what's her environment? Because when you're in the shaman business like I am, I've always explained to you all, always ask the question, why? Why is she acting that way? You can say, well, what is their purpose? Yeah, but why is she acting that way could explain what is their purpose, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So, um, what did she grow up around a lot of electric poles? Did she grow up in an apartment building? Did she grow up without touching? Hey, sweet pea, how are you? Politicians and thinking that's an oxymoron. You're absolutely right, sweet pea. Good observation. Um, they're thinking something, and that's my point. I think their point of view is distorted, and I think it's the environment. You know, I mean, we've got our weird Democrats down here in the country, and we've got our strange Republicans. Okay, I mean, there are certain areas down here where the KKK is quiet, but it's quite active. It surprised the crap out of me. But to the point though, they're helping their neighbors and they don't really make it an issue, but it's still alive. That's what got me. What? Yeah, they just don't burn crosses like they used to, but they still have their meetings. You know what I'm saying? But so is this some kind of weird underground network or something? No, it's just like mine. They all just happen to think alike. Well, it's my farm. If somebody tries to take it, I'm gonna fill them full of lead. Well, I kind of feel that way myself, although I can't own a gun because you Republicans made it. Never mind. But to the point of the politicians, though, I see some of these guys that went to Atlanta, and they seemed to have a decent point of view until they went to Atlanta and became part of the legislature. And I'm wondering if Atlanta changed their point of view. You know what I'm saying? Because they had these really good points of view down here in the country, and then they went and became a politician. And then they went to Atlanta. Is it the city that made them change their mind, their behavior, their patterns, their thinking, you know what I mean? Because there's some folks that I voted for, and I'm going, wait a minute, your voting record doesn't show that you would do this. This is out of character, So I look at things as cause and effect. So what's causing the effect? Is it the city themselves? Is it the vibrations? Is it all the trucks and all the noise and all the beeps and all the things? I think it is. I think it has a maybe more to do with why these people act this way or feel this way, or that they feel like they have this superiority complex. Now, there are some of the farmers down here that still think their stuff don't stink because they own a couple thousand acres. And you got to say, well, that's a large voting block right there. But at the same time, just because you own it don't mean that you're better than any of the rest of us, but they seem to think that way. So, we've got our problems with country folk and politicians just the same. So, it's a universal thing. But but they also go and visit the big city more often than the rest of us do. They go for business meetings and they go for here. I do a great impression. Thank you, Chloe. A fill 'em full of lead, says Sean Lee. Yep, Atlanta has some crazy mind control crap. Absolutely, Shauna D. I've seen some folks that live down here that moved to Atlanta. They were not the same after that. I mean, some of them became addicted to crack. I mean, it was like, what? Some suicides and things just. Shauna D. I think he reminds me of Willie Nelson. In a way, that's what a lot of people say, especially there are certain songs that I used to play on the guitar, and they would swear that is that live or is that Memorex? And it would be me singing a Willie Nelson song. But yeah. Um, I really like it when you say, "Yeah, buddy." That was one of my grandpa's most favorite sayings. Yep, "Yeah, buddy," and that came from my family up in Ohio, by the way. Well, we do say that down here in the South too. I gotta say, Shauna Lee, I really like Willie. Yeah, and Willie's still going too. Just saying, what bad timing? Something. Oh yeah, thank you, Millie Cow. Um, Willie Nelson is freaking awesome. Have y'all heard his son sing? He sounds exactly like him. It's so unbelievable. Yep, right, Chloe. Shauna D, you live less than an hour and a half from Atlanta. That's too close for me, but yeah, been up that away a lot with my puppets and storytelling and traveling through. Chloe says, "Oh gosh, I didn't know. I don't know. It's very easy to find though. If you Google, it's their actually song. Oh, okay. Shauna D says it's insane. Those people come back not right, meaning from Atlanta. I agree with you, Shauna D. Chloe heard it and don't even know there's two different people singing. That's how alike they sound. Wow, that's interesting. Dominic says, play some guitar on the stream sometime. I will. I got new strings to put on. I got a mandolin sitting over here that needs to be restrung. I want to get I got to get my fingers back. After I injured this finger when I stabbed it on the river I guess about a month or so ago, I've lost the feeling in this finger. And, and when you're trying to make chords and you don't have feeling in your fingers, but to the point, yes, I am. I will. I'm going to do a little music one day and maybe sing a song or two of my own. Um, yeah, gonna have to check that out too. Thank you, whoever said that. Go listen. Oh, Chloe, thank you. Just Breathe by Willie Nelson. It's actually a Pearl Jam cover. Yeah. All right. Dominic, Chloe, Shauna D. I want to ask since I'm here almost at an hour and a half. Yeah, yeah, buddy, that'd be great. How y'all's energies been here this last week or so, the last 10 days? Um, have many of you been feeling, I don't know, like you've been just like discharged or something? It's almost like the other day. It was almost like they swiped all the energy out of me. Mary Wynn says, "Arg." Now, are you trying to be a pirate there, Mary, or you put a patch over one eye when you say that? Good energy, like bring it on kind of energy. Shauna says, "I've been drunk and I don't drink." Gee, Kalo, so much can be done with sound vibrations, levitation, healing, harm. Absolutely, and that's sort of my point. I don't know how long you've been here, um, G, but that's my point exactly about cities. And there are vibrations there, um, and I think that there are people who just are not aware of them. And I think depending on the building that they're in or the buildings they're around and the people that they're around. Because, when you go, there is that mob mentality. When you're around other folks, you have a tendency to pick up that energy. I mean, there are people in mob mentality that do things that just, they would never do on regularly. Chloe says, David, I've been feeling that way the last couple of days as well. And I actually had someone mention the Schumann resonance the other day as well. My body just feels worn out or tired. Yeah, Breaking Dawn and I both were having a couple of just not necessarily rough days, but not real jumping up and let's. Although we did take a nice walk down in the woods the other day, so it hasn't been all nasty. But energy levels have just been like, man, come on, feel feels like somebody else's funk I'm trying to get out of because I don't have any personal funk that would make me feel like I'm being depressed, but there seems to be a depressive air at times. I don't feel that way now, but we did get hit with some really strong energy, and we've also got some solar energy coming in, which may or may not affect Mother Earth in a way, but it's dang sure going to affect you and me. If it'll affect the satellites and the electromagnetics of the planet, it's affecting you and me. So Dominic says I felt sick a few days ago and lethargic, but I'm not sick, and had high energy before the low energy took me over recently. Exactly, that's my point. Last weekend, for example, it was real high energy at the powwow and everything, and it wasn't just the powwow. But then a couple days later, it was like, Nyum. Um, Chloe says, yeah, I would say pars- partially my energy is okay. It's just my body that like aches and I want to sleep. Yep. I agree with all y'all. Just wanted to get your opinion on things and touch base. Millie Cow says, getting out of bed is the hardest part of the day. I can sleep all day if I just didn't make myself get up. Been this way for a long time. I've gone through stretches like that, Millie Cow, and I've literally had to tell myself, get the blink up and go do something, even if it's minor, take a walk around the yard or go do something. But yeah, Shauna D says the drunk energies, I feel dizzy and high and giddy, and dreams have been great too, but just sleepy. Yeah, pretty much along that. We've had instances here of just literally I call it listing, like a boat's listing, listing to the right, listing to the left, stand up, sit down, fight, okay, football season, what the hell. But anyway, um, but out of balance, just haven't been to things. For me, my balance has been really great here the last year or so after having spent years of stumbling and falling and things. Been singing a lot. Yeah, that's good vibration and good energy. We all need to do that more often. Sing, that is, in two-part harmony if we can. Um, Chloe, oh David, I bet to tell you my soul sister, her father was at the powwow. His name is Tall Bear. He was at the powwow down in Cairo for us Southerners. Wow, that's interesting, Chloe. I didn't meet anybody. I've known somebody by the name of Tall Bear, but I don't know if it is. But that's interesting. On our way to the love frequency, yep. And some of us, I don't know necessarily if it's an age thing, but the other day I was like, God Almighty, I feel like I'm 70. I know I'm pushing 70, but I just felt it. Looked in the mirror and went, son of a bitch, who hit you with the old age whack? Look at it myself, but I was like, crap in a bag, man. I look like hell the other day. But the Schumann was doing some interesting things. Plus, like I said, we've been getting cosmic energies from the sun. So, but anyway, my friends, I love you all. I do. Thank you for hanging out with me. And this was sort of an odd topic, but discussing the vibrations of things as I have in my many other videos, and we have all talked about vibrations and frequency and so forth and what it means. Not to say that the folks in big cities are nuts, but I look at their reactions to certain things and I'm like, but the rest of us really don't feel that way. When I go into town and I talk to folks around here, we really don't feel that way. And what's the difference? These people live in big cities. We live in small communities in small town America. What's the difference? So it's just an observation on my part, but some of these folks are just going crazy. It's the apocalypse again. Oh my God, there are folks still pushing the rapture after 5 years, 6 or 7 years. The rapture is going to happen anytime. Well, if you get killed, it will. Or if you have a spiritual awakening. I did a video one time about rapture. And, do we have to wait till we die to, be raptured? And the answer is no, we don't have to wait. Rapture is our spiritual awareness. When we can think in a higher realm of reality, we've had a rapturous moment. We don't have to die or have somebody come in on a cloud to bring the rapture. We bring the rapture to each other, to ourselves. I try to share what I know because I'm hoping that you'll have your own rapture in your own way without any kind of religious drama involved with it. Although, as I've said, many religious texts and books are very inspirational. But the idea, though, is that you don't have to have religion to do it. You just have to have faith. And I think that the vibrations in the cities, depending on the high rise and the construction and the ground and so forth, and where they are, ley lines, stuff like that, power spots, these folks are being affected. They have to be. I was affected. Breaking Dawn was affected simply by the vibrations of the traffic down in Tampa. And other people, they're just not aware of it. Oh my God. So how is it affecting them? They have become blind, immune to the fact that their world is literally trembling beneath their feet. I just, awareness, you know what I mean? Chloe, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of people that don't know how to handle waking up. That's why I have these little impromptu videos, is because, there are so many different ways of waking up. Having that aha moment, whatever that aha moment might be, is a rapturous feeling. But to think that, that there's only like one rapture or one thing or only one spiritual high. No, for every time I have, going down to the powwow last week and hanging out with my friends, that was a spiritual high all of itself. Regardless of the dancing, sitting around and having chats with folks from different parts of the country, and hearing of other areas and people and how the planet's doing, and just, having conversation with, like-minded people like we're having here, but in person, and actually having coffee together and pastries, Cheers, Bob. But there's just something about them city folk, and we just have to be careful. And I think one of the things in understanding stuff as a shaman in training, these people piss me off, but why? There's that question. Why? Well, they don't understand how us rural people think, but why? But, blah, 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 but why? So every time I would come up with, what is their thinking? Why do they feel this? What? Wait a minute. The only thing that makes sense is that most of these folks live in cities or have spent a lot of time there, so that their frequency can be changed. Their mind, maybe it is mind altering. Maybe it's hanging. I'm not sure. Brainwashed. I was trying to stay out of that, but to the point though, do we actually know? I mean, the music that's being played through certain buildings. It was years ago when I worked in corporate America. There were experiments done with some of the corporations, and the Japanese were really big about this. But they played subliminal things in the music over the loudspeakers while people worked. And it was like it encouraged them to work harder. And it was just little words and little things and frequencies. It was in the music they played. So you're riding up and down in the elevator in one of their buildings, and you're listening to this stuff. Be a good Japanese person and work hard and be faithful, and and bow down to the emperor and what? And they were putting it in the office buildings. Well, it's corporate. It's not a U.S. bill. I mean, so they can do whatever the hell they want to. So how do we know that they ain't controlling these people through the messages in the music and the elevator? We don't know, but we do know that they're crazy, and they'll try anything to try to influence us in one way or the other. So the brainwashing, they've been trying to brainwash us for a while. Yeah, Shauna D, go within. Let me go back up here. Mary Wynn says, older people look in the mirror and wonder what the hell happened. I look younger than I did last year, though. That's a good thing. And I've had, when I went to Tampa, there were people going, man, you look great, Dave. And I'm like, I feel my age. I'm 67. And yeah, but you look good. My hair's not as gray as a lot of people that are younger than me. So it's like, I don't know. I feel younger in some ways. So, but anyway, I agree with you, Mary. Chloe, Shauna, just know, darling, that the time of death is when life truly begins. We are set free off this earth and then to be in the universe. Yeah, this is, um, yeah, Shauna, the idea of spiritual awareness is the big thing. This ain't it. I mean, this ain't all there is. There's so much more in the universe. And our limited brains and the limited science and so forth that they try to put forth to us. But when you understand these things from a shaman's point of view, meaning just a spiritual person trying to understand the universe, nature brings it to you. Where I've been in tall buildings and it just didn't do it for me. Wrong frequency. But the idea, though, that um, and I will disagree with you slightly, Chloe, about the time of death, because actually, for some people, it takes a little. They have to go through a short transition phase of being out of body and knowing that they're dead, kind of thing. So it's not immediately, not all the time. My grandmother, she walked right on in there, but she knew days ahead. So, but not every death is so. Do they know right away? I just want to toss that in there, Chloe. Well, Shauna D, I had my first remote viewing of the last moments of her life. It was exhilarating till I seen her shoot herself. Yuck. I have seen things like that, and it will affect you forever. Chloe says, you're absolutely right there, buddy. I appreciate you for everything you share with us. Well, thank you. I don't know it's your opinion of whether or not I'm amazing, but cheers. Millie Cow says, waking up, whoop, 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 it jumped. Y'all been busy up here. Waking up is a constant, gradual process, sometimes dizzyingly fast, sometimes pretty quiet. Agreed. And the quiet times, and I'll just interject this, as I've stated in other videos, is that we need that quiet time. So it could be that the energy that was coming in the last couple of days where we've all kind of felt tired, we needed to absorb that energy and allow it to do whatever it cosmically needs to do to us. So sometimes we just need to allow that we need to allow that energy to settle in with us. So Chloe says, I shall keep in mind that her pain and suffering is now over, and I pray that she finds peace and joy and happiness, many blessings. Absolutely. I will second that and third that, Chloe. Mary Wynn says, that's the truth. I have no fear of death anymore. The package I'm in expires, and to infinity and beyond. Mary wins, absolutely. And I used to have a great fear of death, great, horrible. And I used to put myself in crazy situations where I could, get hurt. But also, though, but not every time was like, I'd go down the river, but weird things would happen. Storms would pop up and the river flowed backwards. It just was strange things. But I realized that we have to live life to its fullest, because otherwise, if we just sit in a chair and look out the window, what are we going to get out of that? Nothing. We have to experience life. And to experience life means I want to say, accelerate our spiritual awareness. It will help it to grow. Maybe not necessarily push on the gas pedal, but anyway. Sean D, LOL, just like Buzz Lightyear. Absolutely. The Millie Cow says, I feel like my brain woke up and caught up with my soul. Then it all slowed down. And I think it's because they have to meld back together again. That's my personal opinion. Now I have to do the work to keep growing to reach my potential, release my unwanted baggage. Yes, Millie Cow, that's part of the process. For those folks, I've used farming terms before about the old cotton pickers that had these huge bags, and they'd pick cotton and go down the row. When you get to the end of the row, you dump the bag out. That's just all there is to it. If in life, we carry so much baggage with us. When you get down to the end of the row, pick a field, pick a crop, but cotton was the one I was referring to. You dump that bag, otherwise you got to drag that son of a gun all the way back down the field, and you spend more energy toting the bag than you do picking the cotton. But anyway, words of wisdom here. Yep, I agree with you. Let's see. Chloe says it does make you feel like you're going crazy when you first start waking up. It really does, but you know within yourself if you're actually going crazy or not. Also, let me remind you, a crazy person has no idea that they are actually crazy. Yeah, I knew I was crazy, but I'm a crazy person. So, but Millie Cow says, yes, Chloe, when we inspire each other and lift each other up, humanity has so much potential and we have no idea. Uh, LOL, but I'm not sure that ever ends. I still feel like I'm going crazy. I actually feel that that's some of the vibrations, the changes within us. I think that may actually be some of our DNA being rearranged. I can't put my finger on that one, but I mentioned the Breaking Dawn earlier today. I said the other day, I just felt like my whole body was going like this. And I was like, what the hell? Lasted a couple of hours. But then it was like, well, that was interesting. But anyway, our alphabet speaking spells. Right, Mary wins. And when we speak the words we wish if we speak someone with anger, imagine all that vibration that goes out to the universe. You son of a, rah, 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 rah. Imagine all those vibrations being put into the same thing with laughter. That was one of the things I loved as a puppeteer, was to be able to get people to laugh. Little kids pee their pants. I just loved it, sitting on the floor, jumping up and down, screaming and laughing. Man, that's the best. So, and you can get other people to laugh. The joke might not have been too funny, but there's a person over on the other side that never heard it before. They're like laughing their tail off, and you start giggling because they're laughing. So some of this is contagious. So when we do good things with humanity, is my point, and I'm agreeing with you. Um, what we speak, how we speak it, is magic, because it's part of the universe. When we send out what we wish with our vibrations and our words and speak it aloud, laughter is the best medicine, Shauna D. I agree. But those shamans, for example, they do chanting, they do songs, they do prayers. They don't just sit and meditate and go om. They speak the words to the universe, to the four corners. to the up, to the down, and to the inside, to the within. And so all of these prayers are spoken aloud. The intentions, my prayers, my intentions of my prayers. I speak my intentions. Creator, my intention for this prayer is to help bring peace to all. My intentions for this prayer is to bring peace upon the earth. My intent with this prayer is to help to heal the waters of the planet. Whatever it is that your intent, my intent is for this prayer to help heal a person, or to send love, or to send encouragement. You know what I mean? But if you must say it out loud for it to really be effective. Thinking it, mm, it works. But the thing is if you know that by speaking the vibrational thing into the universe, that you could amplify your thought through the action of speech and the action of your vibration and your tonal qualities and all of that, then you have added to the universe something even more special rather than just a thought, just the prayer. Well, I'm sending this prayer out to my friend. I hope you get better. No, speak it out loud. To my good friend D, I've sent love and prayers for her healing. And say it out loud. And you don't have to scream it, but to the point though, it's the prayer of the universe. So in my humble opinion, all of the good, great shamans that I have met, have seen, all speak the prayers to the universe, to the creator. They don't hold it within. They may do a silent meditation while they're saying the prayer. That's different, because you're trying to amplify the intention through your ceremony, through your words, through your dance, through the burning of sage. So it's your intent that takes it. But if you keep that intent just in here, then how's the universe going to hear it? So our vibrations are very important, and saying it out loud is magical. Millie Cow says, do you ever just stare at the mirror for a few minutes? One of the strangest and potentially terrifying experiences you can have. Your face morphs and shifts, and yeah, changes second by second. Yeah, and when you're on a psychedelic, it really looks weird. But I have, and it's sort of like scrying into water. It's sort of like mirror scrying. So you look at your reflection in the mirror, and to see what's there. So you may see yourself in a different realm, or in a parallel universe, or in another dimension, or in a previous lifetime. Yeah. Mary Wynn says, I heard laughing pisses off the lower vibrational beings. It really does. It chases, they don't like it. They do not like laughter. I mean, they really don't. So, yeah. Millie Cow says, psychoanalysis is very similar when you really get curious and pay close attention to your mind. Pry open the cracks to see what's going on. Whoa. Exactly. And I've talked about it in ways that it's always like dark corners. It doesn't necessarily mean evil. It's just dark. They're back over in the corner. And we need to go through. And I used one time, it was like I was in a room with lockers in it. And some of the lockers were open and you could see it was empty. Some of the lockers had a name on it. You could tell what was in the locker. But then there were lockers over in the corner that hadn't been used. And in my mind. And so I had to go open up some of those lockers and go, you know what? You've been over here this whole time, a pair of dirty socks, and it's really smelled up the room. Couldn't find where the smell came from. And it's from and it could be, quote, in the dark corner. You know what I mean? Shauna D says, I got chills. What? I got chills hearing him say this. It's so true. I don't know which part, but thank you, Chloe. Laughed often. It helps to feed the soul. And also send the good vibrations into the universe. I mean, if you truly understand our power and the power of our voice, the power, I mean, to just go outside and just in your backyard and just say a prayer to the universe and offer it up, your vibrations are added to the things. So, when you understand truly how powerful it is, you'll understand truly some of our power. I mean, it goes without saying. Millie Cow says, Mary, I agree with that. It's a great way to dispel fear. You can see something scary and freak out or try to see it in a different way and find it amusing. Ha ha ha, what a cute monster. Think it's so big and scary, so silly. Don't take them so seriously and they can't do so much. And Millie Cow, that's true. And look at it and remember the movie Monsters with the one-eyed guy and the big goofy. What were they doing? They were scaring kids, and by the end of the movie they realized laughter actually gave more energy. I'm like, well, duh. A bunch. I've been at funerals when people are around crying and everything, and after a while they have to release that negative weepy, teary-eyed thing, and they go to the wake, and people start telling jokes and stuff just to kind of lighten up the mood. You know what I mean? So laughter cures a lot of things, and when we share it with the universe, there you go. Shauna D, I pray out loud because I believe this, and keep doing it, and convince other people. And my prayers to the universe a lot of times are very simple. And I just say to the universe, it is my intent that I say these prayers, these words I speak of peace, of harmony, and of truth, I share with the universe. That's a prayer, you know? But now, if I'm doing a ceremony with a fire and other things, but just saying those things, there are people who say, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be." Yeah, yeah, okay. But a simple prayer is just saying to the universe, "I love you," you know. But anyway, um, Chloe, I feel you on that so much more than you. Yeah, good. You see, you guys are sharing. And in the sharing in the chat, you're also sharing the like-minded being thing. See, we are having an effect. Just remember that we're the ones with the higher power here. They can never do anything to us unless we allow them to. Almost, Chloe. There are some really powerful beings out there, and we can be at the wrong place at the wrong time and get smacked. But that don't mean we should fear it. I mean, I live down here in the South. I moved out of Florida to get away from hurricanes. Had more hurricanes here than I did when I lived in Tampa. So, fear of storms, it didn't work for me in that respect. But what I learned was to not be afraid of the storms. So, but to the point, there are beings out there. Don't draw attention to yourself for them. Don't go out there shaking your finger and go, ah, nanny, nanny, boo, boo, you can't harm me. Don't do it. They'll test yourself. Fear is our enemy. It absolutely is, Mary Wins. Absolutely. If you were afraid and ran all the time, how would you ever win a war? I mean, a battle of any kind, of wits. If somebody said, well, this problem's too hard for me, I can't do it, I give up. Well, then you just lost, you know? So it's in all things, math problems, you know, gardening issues, whatever it may be, if we fear it. And the thing is, when you laugh, you show confidence. If you laugh at a scary situation, even though you might be like inches away from dying, if you laugh at it and bring that higher energy up, it's amazing what it can do. There's a lot of power in that. But yeah, I agree with the fear is our enemy. It's been my enemy for years. I've discussed it and will continue to discuss it. But you're absolutely right. Um, and we have to remember not to be stupid. In other words, if you don't have any strength in your hands, don't go mountain climbing. If you don't know how to swim, don't go scuba diving. If until you learn, but to the point of, going out there into the spiritual realm and thinking that you can defeat the darkest entity or whatever's out there, just hang on. Have confidence in your own energy that if you have to, you can defend yourself. And that when you laugh in the face of fear, then the fear says, well, he's he's already laughing, so I can't necessarily get to him. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to get somebody depressed when they're laughing their tail off. But to that point, Millie Cow says, don't fear them, don't mess with them, and you won't attract any. Sometimes being in the wrong place with a good energy will attract them because there may be, I'm saying, like in a city, a lot of people, a lot of things, there's a lot of negative energies. And so out here in the country, not so much, not anywhere near. But when I was in Tampa, I was like looking over my shoulder all the time going, there's shit all around me. You know what I mean? And it took all the energy I could just to, like, keep my aura up. But it had nothing to do with fear. It just had to do with there was so dadgum many of it. Mary Wynn says, love frequency, our original frequency. Yes. One of them. It's a shared frequency, but absolutely, Mary Wynn's. The Millie Cow, I like to think I've overcome my fear of those dark things, but the reality is that I have rarely encountered that fear since moving out of that house. That's important. The important thing, don't go knocking on their door. Absolutely. But sometimes there are situations. I mean, I was staying here in my house and I didn't know my neighbors were casting spells in my direction. You never know what the hell's going on from outside sources. So, um, Chloe, Millie Cow, I mean this in the kindest way. Ever don't go searching at doors. Lead me to a door one time and didn't feel good about it the whole time. And once I got there, yeah, don't do that again. It depends on what the fear is. I mean, I had the fear of dying alone. So, but anyway, you have to get just beyond whatever your fear is. But to the point of those locked doors, and you open up one of them up, and whatever may be lurking in one of your dark corners can knock you on your ass. But if you go do the work inside, then carry your shield, take your sword, because you may need it. Chloe says, I think at times they're just attracted to light, or they're attracted to certain things, and that's why they may be around or try to attack you spiritually or mentally or emotionally. Just don't let them have that power over you. Millie Cow says, Chloe, I don't plan on it. I've talked to people who deal with certain entities following them. That shit is no joke. No, it ain't no joke. And the thing is that, you have to just very calmly and very spiritually strong and say, I denounce you. I renounce you. I reject your energy. I am my own being. Some folks say I am my own sovereign being. And in certain realms, that may actually help to say that. But the thing is that you have to be confident. Even if you lose the fight, you have to be confident. If you go in scared, you're going to get your butt kicked. So at least know that I'm prepared. I'm as prepared as I possibly can be. But to your point, Chloe Millicow, you may feel fear, but if possible, just let it be. Observe it, meditate through it. Let the intensity be. Doesn't need to be a negative intensity. I've done this before, and instead of having a nightmare, I just woke up. Sometimes we need, if there's a nightmare going on, is it happening to us or are we watching it happen to someone else? And sometimes we have to watch some of these nightmares because there is very important information in some of those tragic events. As much as I hate to admit it, there are times when and I don't mean suffer through it as it, oh my God, but you got to watch the movie. You got to watch the movie because maybe in that nightmare, or that night vision or whatever it is, there's information in there. So, but if you feel yourself starting to be afraid or scared or whatever, then say, wait, I got to watch this movie. So if you tell yourself, I'm watching a movie, there's something in here they want me to see, meaning the spirits or whatever, or maybe it's something internal. I don't know. Could be from a previous life. But there's the reason you're having it is on purpose. Like all things you need to work out. So sometimes you got to watch it. But to the point, though, about becoming the observer, and I've spoken about this before, how do you deal with it? You become the observer. You have to take that. You're not for it. You're not against it. You're just going to stand there and watch it. And that's important because then you can say, well, wait a minute. Now I'm not emotionally attached to this nightmare, although it's creepy, freaky, and crappy or whatever. But I'm going to pull my emotions out of the nightmare and I'm going to watch it. Hello, Mother Nature. Cheers back to you, Miss Buddy. Yeah, thank you to all you good buddies out there. And good to see you around, Mother Nature. Yeah, my beard is getting long again. I'm thinking about clipping it off again. It just, and somebody the other day at the powwow said, "So, what's with growing your beard?" And I was like, "What do you mean growing it? I can't stop it. I can cut it, but I have thought about letting it get on down a ways, but yeah." Mary Wynn says we use 5% of logical brain and 95% subconscious, I think. Mary, you're very close to that. And one of the idea of the shaman in training is to be able to do the crossover in your brain. And I gave this little tip to folks, but I don't know if anybody's really paid attention to it. I gave this little tip, and it really is important, about doing the touch your finger to your thumb, doing this exercise here. It's really important. And to do the both hands at the same time without looking, doing it behind your head, and then crossing over, because when you cross one hand over the other, and it makes the two eyes in your brain do strange things, but it helps to allow your subconscious and your conscious to work more together versus unconscious, asleep, different realm, consciousness, this stuff. Because, um, for example, your subconscious, do you ever stop and think about, is my heart beating? How fast is it beating? Now, in the a Buddhist type tradition and a meditation type tradition, you want to control your breathing. You should be able to hear your heartbeat and to control how many beats and slow your heart, slow your rhythm, slow your energy down. But at the same time, without going to sleep. So it's a higher meditative state, but you start to take control over the unconscious things like the how fast your heart's beating. Slow it down, speed it up. So when you take control of your breathing, you've taken control over a subconscious um, act in your brain. It just runs on its own. So when you take control of these things consciously, it helps to bridge the gap to the unconscious. It helps to bridge the gap between other things. And by doing these silly little mind trick games with your physical self, it ties in stuff up here, and you start using your third eye, and you can walk around blindfolded and not bump into things. I was talking with my daughter about it over the last weekend, and I said we were talking about difficult things and working, and she said, sometimes I just close my eyes, and I was like, exactly, because she was had worked on some heavy machinery and so forth, in the pulp into paper making and so forth, installing huge machines, and as a millwright. So anyway, we were talking about something one day about putting nuts and bolts and couldn't get on it. And I said, there are so many people I've tried to explain. You can look at something, your brain understands it right away. You take the nut, the washer, and you let your fingers do the looking. You allow yourself, you psychically see where that bolt is that you can't really see, and you put that nut on there, and you just look at it with through your imagination, if you will. And a lot of people just think that's just hogwash and bunk, but it helps to bridge between your conscious and your subconscious mind. It helps to bring those things, your reality, forward, because when you can understand, when you can perceive things like there this is what brought it up again at the powwow last week. And Breaking Dawn and I were sitting on the tailgate of my truck waiting on my daughter to come back. And this lady came out of her trailer and walked around the tent, and the tent pole, I'm sorry, the guide wires, lines, strings, ropes coming off of the tent to the stakes, right? And I'd tripped on it once, and I told myself, where that stake is now. Don't trip over that again. So this lady comes out of the trailer, and she's not even looking, and she just do walking along, and all of a sudden she just steps to the side and misses one of the guy wires on the tent. And I was like, did you just see that? She goes, yeah. She goes, it's dark. She didn't even know it was there. And I said, but she is aware of her surroundings, and she knew through her third eye to move away because there was a guy wire there. There was a stake there, and she walked away from it. She didn't trip over it. And certain people are aware of things, and they stumble on shit all the time. And there are those people who allow their awareness to keep them from doing such things. And the more you understand it, and the more you use it to your benefit, the more powerful it becomes to you. And you quit doing stupid stuff a lot of times. But it helps to connect the two sides of the brain. It helps connect the subconscious with the conscious, and it helps you to take control more over your entire being. So anyway, how about them apples? Millie Cow says, I rarely ever have nightmares anymore nowadays. The majority of my dreams have very little emotional depth. Sometimes I get the odd one that comes through. Chloe says, I love movie monsters. Absolutely. You're right. Good job, says Mother Nature. Chloe, what I mean is when I get scared enough, it just happens. Suddenly I realize I'm dreaming. I don't think to take control over the dream. I just immediately decide to wake up. And one of the things that we can pre-program our brain, when I first learned about astral projection, you have to set up in your brain what you want. You have to set up your intentions. So, okay, I'm going to lay down here. I'm going to relax my brain. And you tell yourself this out loud. I'm going to relax my brain because it's a form of self hypnosis. So, through this form of self hypnosis, meditation, if you will, you can convince your brain to change your heart rate, change your breathing pattern, and it's an awareness thing. Mary Wynn says, thinking past the first thought, creation is my cross. Chloe says, Melly Cow, if that's how it is when you do know how to lucid dream, your mind's just probably blocking it by thinking exactly what you said, that you don't have that much luck in it. Melly Cow says, yes, expanding into the unconscious mind, unifying the self. Here's the thing, the unconscious mind is always there. The unconscious mind knows when you're asleep. It knows when you're awake. It knows if you've been bad or good. So be good for goodness sakes. Hey, but to the point though, the subconscious remembers it all. It knows what's going on. When you're sleeping, it's listening. It knows that, like, you timed yourself to the baby crying or something, when when I had children. And I mean, just whatever it is, like I can hear a helicopter from 20 miles out. But there are certain things that your brain can hear, or sounds or things like that. So when you're asleep or unconscious or in your subconscious, all this stuff is still going on. It still knows it. But when you're awake, because you're looking and seeing and paying attention, your subconscious is still there. You know what I mean? It's still functioning. It's just your awake mind doesn't have time for it. Chloe says that you're dreaming within your dream. That means you can use your conscious mind while in your subconscious. Absolutely. Chloe, I agree with you. Millie Cow, you're probably right. I've just gotten very discouraged the times I did all the reality checks and wrote down all my dreams and stuff. It didn't seem to make I didn't seem to make progress. Yeah, buddy, Chloe, I agree with you. And so I lost motivation to keep trying every time. Um, Millie Cow, just understand this too. Sometimes it's not in the trying. Sometimes we can try so hard we affect the change. It's the observer phenomena. We're trying too hard. We're looking too hard for our particular outcome or something. And sometimes we just have to go into the thing saying, whatever dreams come my way when I go, when before I, it's sort of like a little prayer. It's not necessarily a mantra, but it is, in that as I go to sleep, if I have a bad dream, I will become the observer. And when your daily prayer is always, I refuse to accept any negative energies or any negative entities that will try to harm me. The same way you say, I do accept and um, um, I do accept the healings from the universe. I reject the negatives. Why not? So if you state it out there, category, your subconscious mind already knows, it's pre-programmed now. You have just put some stuff into your RAM. You know what I mean? So when you do go out there, and your brain's going to go someplace, whether you actually remember it or not, but that you now have a pre-programmed preset of rules that you have stuffed into your RAM, conscious, subconscious. So whatever you go, I reject the negative. I reject any negative entities. So your brain already knows, but to remind yourself is a good thing. Just saying, you know. Oh, but Millie Cow, back to you about losing motivation. Sometimes you just have to allow it. Yeah, Chloe, with what you say, it takes a lot of practice, and frustration will throw itself in your way every time you turn around. There will be doubt. I don't know if I'm doing this right. There'll be the fear that you're not doing it right, or maybe you may encounter something. And you say, well, I'm not really fearful, but you're going into an area where you're not sure. You're going into uncharted territory. So your pulse is going to race. If I go onto a river that I see rapids ahead, am I going to be afraid of them? No, but I'm going to become a little bit more, alert. Something else is going to be, well, I got rapids coming up. I'm in my kayak. All right, let's make sure I got my, PFD on good. Let's make sure I got a good hold of, my paddle, whatever it is. So, but you pre-program your brain to, it's calm water now, but there's rapids coming up. So I'll just be prepared. So in this realm of whatever it is in the spiritual realm, whether you call it forward looking or this, there's a lot of ways of naming it, but we affect it simply by who we are and our observation. So if we're scared, and there may be a fear back there that I know there have been times I wasn't fearful until I got in a situation, and then I went, "Holy crap, that scared the shit out of me." You know what I mean? So, but at the same point, I have enough confidence to go, "Wow, that's scary, but I can work through this." It's the confidence part, but it does take practice. If God, if I'd thought how many times I gave up on this spiritual crap over the years, and to think that here I am now, who would have thunk? But anyway, agreed, Chloe. Just remember, if you do get there, to always have yourself be protected at all times. But the protection is you protect yourself before you ever go to sleep, before you ever start meditating, so that your mantra is already preloaded in your memory RAM. Always. Millie Cow, you have a good point. The observer has been my approach recently. I have also noticed the difference when I consciously set an intention before bed. I should try this for dreams more often. Absolutely, Millie Cow. Those are my little tidbits of information. Um, Mother Nature says, yes, sir, I don't like dreams nowadays. Most every time I have one sounds crazy, but they end up being deja vus. Much love back to you, Mother Nature. And I brought that up as a subject matter between Breaking Dawn and I the other day. I said, have you just noticed it just seems like some people are having Mandela effect moments? And I was having my own personal little titty bit kind of things. Like, I don't remember that being that color. And nobody else would have known, but it's a color of a tool, or it's a color of a toolbox, or it was something I go, I don't remember that being like that. And just look at it and go, I'm not sure, but I agree with you, Mother Nature, on that. All y'all are awesome. Thank you for hanging out with me and each other. So, Chloe, crazy enough, and it's odd enough to myself if I can only recall having maybe 2 or 3 dreams in the last several years. Wow, that's interesting. Chloe says, this whole world, this whole experience to me is a deja vu. Everything is up to a point. And Chloe, to your point about this, recently, it seems like, haven't I done this before? I mean, just the whole, I don't know, like I 5 years ago, I never would have thought I'd be sitting here chatting with y'all at 2 o'clock in the morning about spiritual things and so forth. And I just had it never occurred to me. So what we think, what happens, what happens when we don't act on things, I guess. There are a lot of things I didn't act on, and when I did, other things reacted. For every reaction, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And so, in the universe, it was a lesson I had to learn spiritually on my own, being in the woods, getting drowned, getting, left on, but then also to wake up from it all and go, no, I'm actually stronger after this. I mean, to me, there are some people who go, oh my God, I went through this ordeal and oh, I'm having PTS moments. And yeah, well, you can if you look at it that way. Chloe says, yes, we should never mess with things that we don't know how to handle. David mentioned earlier that until we learn how to do something, we shouldn't be messing around with it. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for agreeing with me. It doesn't mean that, and Chloe to the point, and Millie Cow and whoever else might be listening, um, it doesn't mean that you can't learn. You know, it's just that if you think this is out of your league, have enough smarts, use your own intentions, ask your own spirit guide. Should I be over here? But at the same point, as soon as you start doing these simple things like always make sure that you're rejecting any negatives. Always make sure that you're reaffirming your connection to the universe. I accept and receive the healings from the universe. I reject and rebuke the negatives. That's not hard to do. And after a while you can think them, but I say it out loud also because I'm stressing to myself, to my subconscious, just these simple things. If I feel I'm in a situation and it may be a little weird or a little hairy, people, situation, bad part of town, I accept and receive the healings from the universe, and I ask the angels, ask them out loud, and I ask the angels to help me to reject the negatives. Because in case I don't have enough energy on my own or enough information, I want to go in preloaded and ask my guardian angels and say, listen, I ask that you help me with this. Not to do it, but to help you. Because how can you learn to be strong if they always do it for you? Just saying. Sometimes when I need to get up early and it's late before bed, I tell my brain body, don't expect a full night's sleep and get all the rest you can in a few hours because we'll be getting up soon. And I feel like keeping in mind that I'm taking a 4 hour nap or whatever instead of 10. Yep. Mary Wynn says it's sort of like a rerun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree that sometimes it does feel like a rerun, but it's watching a rerun of Andy Griffith, and you know damn well and good, Barney, it was a black and white. And now that you watch it and it reruns, you go, oh, holy crap, it's in color. I don't remember that Aunt B being in color in that one. Opie, wait a minute, hang on here. What's in that? Now, I know they did Andy Griffiths that were in color, but my point is some of the memories I have, like Petticoat Junction, some of the first ones were black and white. I'm an old geezer. But, I'd go, wait a minute, and I look and I go, when did they make that? Didn't make that one in color. Not back in 63. No, 64, 5, yeah, okay, but 62, 3. No, there wasn't much color out there going on, just saying. It's just saying. About the nap thing. There and Millie Cow, you've got a way that works for you. Having had times when I was driving vehicles and had to be on the road, there was a lot of convincing, don't go to sleep, and always do the opposite. Instead of don't go to sleep, don't go to sleep, don't stay awake. Okay, I need to stay awake. Stay in the positive rather than don't fall asleep. you know what I mean? In a negative, positive. All right. But also with that, I had if you tell your mind about you're fixing to take a power nap, you tell your brain rather than, and I get this, I'm taking a 4 hour nap now instead of 10. So, but what it is you just say, I'm going to get the most rest in this power nap that a 10-hour nap will give, or however you want to put it. So, this power nap will be equal to, I choose, but you tell yourself. But I agree with you, Millie Cow. So, but there are different ways to telling your brain and your subconscious. Always use the positive vernacular though. Um, Chloe, I just kind of sort of what you just said help you get through your day. Yep. Chloe says it's funny that David mentioned a movie because that's how I see life as a movie, as a rerun, as something already done that I'm just watching or going back to visit. And Chloe, having been in theater myself, it feels like a play sometimes. And now in a movie, you can't change the script because it's like on film, at least in my brain. But if I'm in a play, which I've been in many, in a play, I can take one step further left, or I can take one step further back, or I can put my hand on the back of the couch. I can alter the play, whereas watching the movie is so set in stone, I can't change it. But anyway, I see it in both ways. Sometimes I'm in a play and I can actually look around and go, if I was sitting, okay, Bob, if I was sitting in the audience looking at this, it would look like a movie. But because I'm on the stage and in it, kind of, sort of, although I'm observing myself while I'm doing it, I'm also, but wait a minute, I'm going to put my hand on the back of the couch. I was like this before with my arms folded. Now I'm going to put my hand on the back of the or on the back of the chair. I'm going to put my hands behind my back, or I'm going to put my hands on my hips. And so somehow within it, that's taking control of the dream stream, because now instead of just watching it, you can say now you can take part in it. It depends on the dream, and not every one you want to jump into. But anyway, um, I am that I am. Right, Mary Wins. You guys are going crazy out here. Had a great time on here. Nice warm place, David. Thank you. Really do stop and think about those things. Wow, you guys have been going crazy up here. That's a good thing. The ego sometimes dissolves and realizes to some extent that it's not real. This can be scary. It can be neutral or interesting, even dangerous if you're driving and didn't notice that the light was red. We were very lucky that day. God almighty, be careful doing that stuff, man. The witness perspective. Man, you guys have been chatting like hell. I can't keep up with this. You folks are doing a good job. Let me tell you, Mother Nature, lots of hearts and cosmic hugs. Uh, Very good point, says Millie Cow, about imagining what you want instead of not imagining what you don't want. Yeah, it's speaking in the positive, and I've done a couple of videos about it. But when we speak positively, it's, it's like telling the child, don't forget to wear your helmet when you ride your bike. Well, that's telling him to don't remember. It's telling him forget. So if you say, remember to wear your helmet, remember to wear your flotation device, remember to put your pants on before you go to work. You know. Anyway. Chloe, I didn't actually get to dance with her. That's the strangest damn thing. I was there Saturday afternoon. It was raining and misting, and I kept telling Breaking Dawn, I said, "That's my daughter. I think that's my daughter." But I'd never seen her in her regalia. So I'm waiting to dance with her, and she's already out there, right? So I'm like, I go back to the tent, I go back to her car, and I'm walking around looking for my daughter. She's out there dancing, but I don't recognize her because she's in her full regalia. So after the fact, I was like, wait a minute, that was my daughter that just walked by. Jackie, where are you going? She didn't recognize me. It was like we were both traveling incognito to each other. And I said, honey, I was waiting to dance with you, and you were at Pops. I was already dancing. Why didn't you come out? And I was like, son of a gun. But we didn't actually dance together, arm in arm, but we were both there when we both danced. It was a really strange thing, Chloe. And I kept saying, that's my daughter. No, it ain't. You know, but I've never seen her with her hair back and her, you know, and all of her regalia on. I was like, holy shit. I felt so dumb. But she didn't recognize me either. And I was standing right there, but I was in my regalia. And she didn't recognize me. Goes both ways. But that was just strange anyway. Um, yeah, Millie Cow, I worded that badly. Instead of trying not to get what you don't want, think about the outcome you want. Exactly, says Mary Wins. I remote viewing versions of what? Remote versions of me of her. Yeah, I got that. Are there forces? Chloe says, are there forces of universe to bring them to you in your experience, but you have to live and think and act as if you have them, or if they're there? Chloe, understanding this, the shaman basics is understanding that these things are always there. We have to remember how to use them. That's the trick in this life. That's the trick in becoming a true shaman again, a true spiritual being, is that we learn, we we remember what we should already know. So, but yeah, there are forces in the universe, and that's what I keep trying to convince folks. There's more out there than what they're trying to tell you. And all shamans and all religious people who've really got it, you know, they've had a glimpse of it. Mary Wynn says, how do you turn off your logical part? Yeah, don't, because that's what helps you through it. But anyway, yeah, one of the things in the spiritual awareness thing, the nirvana part of this, and I don't know if it's actually nirvana or if it's just plumb out craziness, but the higher you get your frequency, and it's like there are certain things now I used to have to really grunt and strain, like trying to take a bad dump. You know, oh, I got to get this out of me. But boy, that was a picturesque sight, wasn't it? But you know, and trying to grunt and groan over learning how to do this stuff when actually you just kind of have to relax in the grand scheme of things, you know. Um, got to go finish laundry. Mother Nature's out of here, and I'm fixing to get out of here too. Let it pass. There you go. That's sort of what I was mean about taking the. Um, you should try the 4 box breathing technique, which is breathing for the count of or holding it for the count of 4, let it out for the count of 4, and then do nothing for 4 and start. And Chloe, there are different methods of that. There was breathe in for 4 and hold it for 2, 3, 4, breathe out for 6. And it's really easy to breathe in for 4 seconds, you fill up your lungs, but try to breathe out for 2 seconds longer than you breathed in. You really push out some old energy. But the 4x4 thingy, that's a good start. But understand there are different variations of that and of the breathing technique to slow your heart down. And 4x4 don't work to really get your heart down. You have to be able to go 4x6x6. In other words, you breathe in for 4, hold it for 6, and then breathe out for 6. Different methods, but to the point, it will help you to um, uh, get your body in tune. Let me touch this, Chloe. You said to silence the mind. One of the things you don't want to do is silence it, because into if there are things that you need to work out in your head or your brain needs to see, you're going to spend more energy trying to shut off those images than it is to just let it run. And I've talked about this before. And we don't try to, we do let it run like a movie. So if something is bothering and there's a lot of stuff, the silence is becoming the observer. The silence is that. And that we can let the movie run, but we can turn off the volume. Ooh, the movie can still run. We don't have to become emotionally involved in it, but we can let the images flop. Oh, that happened, this, that. Let it go. Be the observer. But the idea of silence, because the more intense the silence is, the more loudly the silence becomes. Think about it. The more silence there is, and I've been in some really quiet places, the louder the silence becomes. In other words, you hear a raindrop on a leaf where you didn't before. You hear bugs scurrying across the grass that you didn't hear before. You hear something out, some kind of critter or something, and a twig snaps. So in the silence, there is no silence. There's just deeper. So if you're trying to achieve a perfect silence, you're never going to get there, because the universe is full of sounds and frequencies and songs. The better thing is to still the mind, not silence it. To hear the silence is deafening. So you want to be still of the mind, but not silent. Because how are you going to learn anything if there's nothing there, if it's quiet all the time? Wait, what? What's the universe trying to tell me? I don't know. It's quiet. So I'm being a horse's patootie at the moment, not trying to bring criticism, but there is a big difference between the two of those. There really is. And because, I go to the woods for silence, but the more I become quiet, the more I hear. So how can, but the more I am still. So we want the mind to be still. We can be still as an observer. We can be still at a concert and still hear the music. We can be still, you know what I mean? So being still is not necessarily being silenced or be looking for silence, because we don't want silence. The universe is full of noise. We want to hear it, but we can't hear it if our minds are too active. We have to still our minds. Boy, that was a heavy one right there. Did y'all get that? I paid good money for some of this therapy. I'm just saying, over the years, I paid good money for. Much love back to you, Mother Nature. She's out of here. Okay, I got um talking with yourself and dancing. Chloe, yes. Uh the more silence in my environment, the louder the ringing in my ears, almost deafening. It's ringing in my ears right now, Millie Cow. Um, not exactly unpleasant, not an issue, but then there's background noise, which is the vast majority of the time. Chloe says, yes, that's exactly what I mean. You just say it so much better than how I can project it. Chloe, that's my job. You guys think of stuff, and sometimes I'm like, there are things formulating in here in my brain, and my spirit guide's going, okay, the somebody wants you to talk about this, and I can hear things formulate in my head that I hadn't previously thought of, and it's you folks that are kind of you know um, um, stimulating the activity. We're be like minded beings. But thank you, Chloe. I really do mean thank you. Um, right. Chloe, I know I helped to explain it because you just said that, but stillness speaks. Yep. I'm going back up to here. 700 million volts. Yeah, but I think it's in millivolts. Millie cow. How about that one? All right, golly, almost 3 hours hanging out with you guys, which is great. I've missed being on here the last week. Chloe says, David, you're exactly right. I agree with what you're saying 100%. 100 million%. Holy crap, that's a bunch. And I understand what you're saying as well. Thank you. They're blessing us. Yep. There's never going to be complete silence, and we just have to. And for my point about this is that you know a lot of times people say, well, you have to be in total silence. Well, there's never total silence. Your ears are going to ring when it gets too quiet. I've been in soundproof rooms as an engineer, a sound engineer, and so forth, and the sound is deafening. So the idea, though, that there's never any there's never any true silence, but there is absolutely stillness. So, and just rethinking, wait, I can listen to the silence in my stillness and observe it and so forth. So, bravo, you folks are doing great. You guys, thumbs up. There are folks who like, I could talk about this subject for years and they would still look at me and go, I don't get what you're talking about, Hawkeye. This don't make no sense. You know what I mean? And you folks are getting it and in your own ways and using, you're getting it. My job is successful then. When you guys react the way you do, I know I've done my job well in being able to express it in ways that we can all pick it up in different ways. So with frequencies on top. Chloe, you're not saying it incorrectly. You're just stating it in different words. It's just a different phraseology. There's nothing wrong with what you're saying. Understand that because there are times when somebody says, "Wow, I didn't really explain myself well." Yeah, but you tried, and it's in the trying, and it's in with your intent. So, Chloe, understand you're doing a good job. You're trying to formulate words and for how do you explain these emotions that happen to us, by talking it out? And sometimes I'll say that you guys have hung out with me. I'll say it one way, and I'll say, but that reminds me, it's sort of like this, and then it's, well, what about that? So in the course of an hour, I'll talk about it, but I'll try to use different examples. So, because maybe one example isn't the right one for everybody. Somebody needs a different example that helps them out. I know in certain things that because of my learning disabilities, I had to rethink how the teacher said it. It's like, well, wait a minute. He said, well, I can understand it like this, but he said it's this discombobulated way that made no sense. But when I rephrased his words, I was like, oh, I get it now. But never put yourself down, Chloe, because we are all trying in this. I don't have a degree in this. I'm doing the best I can under the circumstances by just staying in tune with nature, with my spirit guide, and with you all. So, you know, don't we're our worst enemies as far as being self-critical. So, listen, you brought up some excellent points, Chloe. So, give yourself some credit here, okay? Just saying. Melical says, when you get a sudden ringing in one ear that lasts maybe 30 seconds or a minute, slowly fading away, what is that? I think it's energy coming from wherever. And it depends on where you're at. Like this ear here is just like going cranky on me. Just, and this one's just a little light tone over here. But there are times when it's like my ears it'll get really loud for a couple of minutes, and I go, what the hell? And then it'll just, whoa, kind of back to normal. We're being bombarded by so much stuff from outer space. Just understand, although it's odd for us to experience these things, it is natural in the course of our going through this time period, if you will. Mary wins. Much love to all you. Chloe. Who else did I miss? Oh, Millie Cow. Yeah, it's been great. You guys are awesome. I don't know details, but I feel a bad juju blast from the phones and computers. I'm not sure if that isn't that weird stuff we are feeling. I agree, it's part of it. It's like I was saying earlier, 2 hours ago. Oh my God, almost 3 hours. With all the cell phone towers around here, that it's just out here in the country. What the shit are they doing out here? But are they like tuning these things and it's whacking with me? I don't know. There are so many energies and radio frequencies around people. If you check your area, if you're around a lot of electronic stuff or live in a neighborhood and there's a lot of close, you could just be getting willy-nilly extra radio waves coming through. Chloe, I've enjoyed each and every single one of you this evening, and I have as well. Yeah, they suck balls, Mary. Okay, my friends, I love you. I do. You're the greatest. And like Jackie Gleason said, maybe you're the greatest. You're very welcome, Millie Cow. So keep up the good work, my friends. I will close with my prayer, and I mean this. I do. I continue to pray that each and every one of you will continue to accept and receive the healings, the blessings, and the wisdom of the universe. I continue to pray each and every day that each and every one of you, your friends, your family, and all of your relations will continue to accept and receive the healings, the knowledge, and the blessings from the universe. And my third time, that three's a charm. I continue to pray each and every day that each and every one of you, your friends, your family, your relatives, and all of your relations, that means past and present and future, will accept, receive, and share these wonderful blessings from the universe. Thank you, Millie Carol, Chloe, Mary Wins. You folks are the greatest. And until next time, cosmic hugs. Cheers, my friends. And from South Georgia, as always, keep it between the ditches. And TTFN from here. Till next time, be safe, be kind, and be compassionate. I love you all. Bye bye.